Hi folks, Dominic here again from Empower Network Ireland team, and today's video is going to be a bit different. It's actually Saturday evening, but I'm shooting Sunday's video, and amazingly Sunday's video is going to be about God. That's what it's going to be about. And totally amazing, I went to my letterbox before I started shooting this video and I got this in my letterbox, and here's what it says. It says, would you like to know the truth? And then it says, the truth about what? Question mark. About some of the most important questions that humans have ever asked. Perhaps you have wondered about such questions as these. And these were the questions that are written down here. It says, does God really care about us? Will war and suffering ever end? What happens to us when we die? Is there any hope for the dead? How can I pray and be heard by God? Now that's a very important one. And how can I find happiness in my life? So of course that's probably the most important. How can I find happiness in my life? Well, I'm going to dedicate this video to my grandmother who's in heaven now. And I'll never forget words that she used to say to me, and here's what she used to say. She used to say, every night, I used to sleep in the same room as her when I was a child. When we be going to bed, I used to stay with her for the summer holidays, and every night when we be going to bed, she tried to give me this lesson, but I wouldn't listen. And her lesson was, without your prayer, you're nothing. That's what she used to always say to me, Dominic, without your prayer, you're nothing. And this was a very, very spiritual woman. And another thing I'll never forget is the last day she was walking down her stairs before she died. And she was actually sick in bed and the doctor referred her to hospital. And I was walking down the stairs with her. She had her hand on my shoulder. And I'll never forget what she said to me when she got to the bottom of the stairs. And though she was able to walk, she was sick. She actually had pleurisy. That's the reason why she went into hospital. And generally what she said to me when she got to the bottom of the stairs, now this was a very, very, very spiritual woman, but what she said to me when she got to the bottom of the stairs that day, the last step, she said, Dominic, that's the last time I'm going to come down that stairs. Now, to me, that lets me see something, that this woman was able to communicate with God, and this woman, who was a very spiritual woman, knew that she was going to the next life. That's probably my best way to describe it. So what's today's video about? It's about God, right? Who is God? Where is God? How do I find God? And for years this puzzled me. Now, I also remember my mother, and she saying to me, get up and go to mass, get up and go to mass. And she used to pull me out of the bed, get up and go to mass. But sure, I was young, I didn't care really. I said, go out, you know what, mind your own business, you do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do. And that's probably a way, the way I decided to experience life. I decided to go the hard road first, and then I had to start looking at myself. So, firstly, what did I discover about myself? And what blocks me from God? And this was a long road. It was a very long road for me. I think I was about 25 or 26 when I started to question, who is God? And I used to think to myself, God is in the sky, God is watching me, and I didn't really understand. But in tough times I used to always say, God help me, where are you, God, you know, and I used to sort of blame God. I hate you, God, why am I feeling down, why am I not feeling great, why aren't things going great for me in life? And here's what I discovered. I discovered that God is actually within me. I can have a communication with God, or any day I want, any time I want, or I can decide to run on self-will. That's what I discovered. And just going into a little bit about story about myself. I left Cork, I think it was in 1999, and I went over to America. And I was after losing my first business. I was after losing my first house. I had really lost everything. I think I was £200,000 in debt or something that time. It was a serious amount of money anyway. And generally, I was in a very bad space in my mind. And it probably took another couple of years after that before I decided to question myself, what's wrong here? What's going on with me? Why is my life like this? Why is everybody else able to get on with their life? And why do I see people around me, they look happy and I'm not happy? And I suppose my first real close spiritual experience, or my first real feeling of God around me, was when I got a vision about a friend of mine who was dying. This was down in Cork, and it was a girl, 29 years old, a close friend of myself and my girlfriend at the time. And I was walking down the street one day. The midgets are starting to bite me here. I'm out in the open here, but anyway, we'll keep going. I was walking down the street one day and I got a vision. And when I say a vision, I as good as went blind and I had to stop on the street. And what happened for me that day was I seen a picture in my mind of this girl sitting inside in her bed with her mouth open looking at me, and her mother was also in the room. Now, for about 2 days after that, I could feel this real strong presence around me. It was nearly like there was something beside me, walking along with me, carrying me. And that was probably my first real true spiritual experience. And that sort of got me looking and wondering, what's this all about? Well, the midgets are driving me mad here, but anyway, we'll trust God for it. God will keep them away from us. But I started to question, who is God? Where is God? How do I communicate with God? So if we look at the word God, G-O-D, right, how I sort of look at it today is good, orderly direction, right? And what blocks me from God, right? Now, here's what I discovered by looking at myself, what blocks me from God. And there's multiple stuff that goes on within me that blocks me from God on a daily basis, right? So we just look at these, I call them defects of character. So there'd be defects within my character, right? And one would be anger. If I'm angry, it blocks me from God. If I'm anxious, it blocks me from God. If I'm arrogant, it blocks me from God. If I'm closed-mindedness, it can block me from God. Dependency, over-dependency, codependency, depression, pessimism, dishonesty, controlling attitudes towards other people, places and things, gluttony, greed, gossiping, lack of humility, self-centeredness, self-pity, rigidity, resentment. So all of this stuff is what blocks me from God. And I discovered that when I live on self-will, I'm not happy. And I won't be happy. It's impossible for me to be happy. So generally, what do I have to do if I'm feeling down on a day? Now, I follow this, you could say, inspirational coach, and his name is Eckhart Tolle. You'll find him on YouTube. And I also follow another inspirational coach, Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks. Now, these videos that I watch on YouTube, they always carry a message. Now, if I decide to take the message, that's generally what I've discovered. So I can decide to be happy, and I can decide to look within myself at all these defects in my character, or I can go along like I did in early days of my life and feel lost and feel emptiness within and be always looking outside myself to find happiness. Now, I discovered that happiness is not outside myself. I will never find happiness outside myself. Money doesn't bring happiness. Material doesn't bring happiness. I've discovered that. It's nice to be secure. It's nice to have money. It's nice not to be racing the bills. Of course, that's brilliant. We all need that, right? Money is great. It's great to have it. But all of these outside things do not bring true God or true happiness. I've discovered that. How have I discovered that? I'll never forget when I lost my first business, and I was in a bad way in my head. I was in a really bad way, and I was getting letters off banks, and they were taking my house. And back in 1999, it was nearly like a big sin. Whereas today, it has turned out that the whole country is probably in this boat today, very sadly. Possibly not due to their own actions, but due to the actions of institutions around them. Now, I don't want to go into that. I don't want to be prejudiced towards institutions on this video, but it's very tough on people today, probably all over the world. In Ireland, people have lost their homes. And what I say, I lost my first home, like I said, and what I say is this, right? You can lose everything in your life. You can lose absolutely everything, any material stuff around you. But what's most important, and this is crucial, and I remember saying this to a person, I'm going to go back on this conversation in a minute, and I'm going to say this. I remember saying to a person, you can strip me of everything. You can take everything, all material outside me. But there is one thing that you can never take from me, and that's God. It is only I give somebody the power to take God away from me. This is what I discovered. Right. For me to get to this level within my consciousness, it took a lot of self-searching, and probably most importantly, for me to keep this level of consciousness within myself, I have to continue on a daily basis to watch my thoughts. Right, so where does this start? This starts with a thought. I remember describing this to somebody one time, and I said to him, here's exactly what I said. I said, watch every thought that crosses your mind, and watch every person that comes into your circle around you, and watch that you're not taking the wrong thoughts into your subconscious, or that another person's thoughts aren't affecting your defects within your own character. When you discover all these defects within your own character, you will be aware of people around you. Now, I sort of stress this. It's crucial to continue. So continue to take personal inventory on a daily basis of these defects within my character. And anything that's not good, cast it out. That's really it. I remember saying to a close friend of mine, he came to my house one day, and he had known that I had taken a self-development program, and he said to me, he said, what would you advise me? Now, he wasn't in a great place at this time, and he said to me, what would you advise me? And I'll never forget advice I had got from older people who had gone through these self-development programs, and they had said to me, always remain teachable, never know it all. So always remain teachable. That's probably crucial. That is crucial, really, because if I'm closed-mindedness about something, I'm not going to look at something. So what do I do, or how do I develop my relationship with God? And here's how I do it. I know when I go from good frame of mind to bad frame of mind. And when I go from good frame of mind to bad frame of mind, I have to retrace my thought process. That's what I do. I write it down on paper. I write down the thought that is taking my mind to where I don't want it to go. So in other words, it's removing my relationship or my consciousness with God. And what this is doing, when I write down the thought, I start to see the defects within my character, which is removing me from my communication or consciousness with God. So that's generally it. Now, I also remember, just going back to the state of the way things are in Ireland today, I remember when I did lose my first house, and I remember lost my first business. I lost everything, and a couple of people had said to me, "Oh, what about the banks? What about the banks?" And I'm not going to tell you what I said, but I as good as said, "Don't worry about the banks," in a different way. Now, I also remember a question being said back to me, and here's what was said. What was said was, how are you ever going to get a home again? How are you ever going to get a house again? How are you ever going to get a mortgage again? And I also remember my answer back. So this was my intention at that time. I remember my answer back, and my answer was, I will build my next house with no banks. And that's exactly what I did. So today I own 90% of my own home, which is probably a great position to be in. I actually had it sold a couple of months back, and I've decided no, not to sell it. I'm not that pushed about selling it. The reason I was selling it is that what I built is too big for my family. I have 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. And I also remember another man saying to me, a close friend of mine, he said to me, how did you go from broke to running a business turning over close to 10 million euros in 4 years, and with a profit margin of nearly €1 million? And I'll never forget my reply to this man, and my reply was, I didn't. And he said to me, what do you mean you didn't? And I said, God did. And that's true. And I firmly know, without God consciousness in my life, that there is no success. I can have all this material stuff outside me, but truly there is no true happiness within, without continuing to develop my consciousness with God. That's my experience. Now, I'm not pushing this stuff down. I know this can be a raw discussion for some people. This is only my opinions, what I'm talking on this video here. So, like I said, I'll never forget. So my intention that time was that my next house would belong to myself. And I am 90% there today. I 90% own my own home, which is probably a great predicament to be in. I'm not boasting, I'm just telling you. But once again, how did that happen? God did it. That's how I describe it. Without God's direction in that business that I was running, I wouldn't have had that success. So it's crucial for me to develop my relationship with God on a daily basis, and to look at my defects within my character on a daily basis. And most of all, probably most importantly, if you have a close friend, sit down with your close friend, read out your writing to a close friend, talk about your defects of character for a close friend, because by doing this you're admitting your defects of character to a friend and to God. You have to admit it within yourself, and this is actually how you develop your relationship with God, and how you become more God conscious on a daily basis. So that's generally the video for today. What did I say? Who is God? Where is God? How do I develop my relationship with God? That's what I've discovered in life. That's my opinion. This is what I do. And when I do that, I feel great. Now, I'm not perfect. There is other days when I don't feel great. And what's the reason being? The reason being is that I take self-will back again. Dominic's way, Dominic's way, Dominic's way. So, really, it's crucial for me to develop my relationship with God, stay close to God. Right, this video is going to be on my blog. Right, I'm going to be going further into this. I'll be doing more videos on this down the road. I will be probably giving directions how to develop my relationship more with God, and how I actually find it great doing this because it brings up defects within me again. I still have defects. I still have to deal with defects. I still have to write my thoughts when my mind starts to wander off. Now, that's my experience. Like I said, anything I have in my life today that's good is due to God. I don't take no credit for it. The new home I built is due to God. Anything that happens good in my life is due to God and me working with God. Probably, I often remember a man saying, God will move ditches, but you'll have to get the shovel and you'll have to help him. So that's generally it for today. I'll go more into detail with this if anybody's looking for more detail with it. And I know, and I have no doubt, that God will move mountains. God can move any mountain you want. Right? Like I said, there's tough times in Ireland today. My advice to anybody who is feeling not great, who's feeling down, is write your thoughts on paper. Continue to write your thoughts on paper. Keep writing your thoughts on paper and you'll start to find yourself again. Just go on the internet, Google defects of character. When you have your thoughts written, try to find your defects within these thoughts. And that's what I do. Right? Then, once again, share these thoughts with a friend, close friend. Admit these thoughts within yourself that this is wrong, because for me all of these thoughts were wrong. Another way to describe it is this: if you got a cup or a skip, we just say a cup, and you put a mouse in the bottom of the cup and you roll up balls of paper. I remember describing this to somebody and he said, oh, that's a good way to describe it, right? If you roll up balls of paper and kept stuffing it down into the cup, you're going to smother the mouse at the bottom of the cup, right? That's what we do to the spirit within ourselves by taking all this bad stuff into us. So we have to empty this. We have to continue emptying these thought patterns out of us. That's my experience. That's how I do it. And I hope this video today helped somebody. And like I said, it's dedicated to my grandmother in heaven. She was a great woman. And that's it really. That's Sunday's video. It's a different tone for today. Tomorrow it's going to be back again to internet structures, internet strategies. I just want to show you where I'm living here. This is where I'm living today, out in the countryside. Like I said, I live out here. I love it out here. It's very high up. That's my home. That's the new house I built. I built it about 7 years ago. Thanks be to God, I'm in a good enough predicament today. I'm not to the mercy, or I'm not a slave to no banks or credit institutions. So that's it really. I have a great life today, and like I said to that friend of mine who asked me, how did you rebuild yourself back up? How did you get back to where you're at? I don't take no credit for it. I give all the credit to God. And I also know something else. I have to continue. Right, step 10 on my program was continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So that's generally it. That's where I look out at. I often say to people, if you couldn't find God up here, there's something bad wrong. But it's lovely. So once again, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Just leave comments below, and if you want to know anything, if I can help you in any way, my email will be below this video. You can shoot me an email, there's no problem. I'll answer any questions I can. If not, I will refer you to somebody who probably could answer those questions. I don't know it all. I'm still learning. Remain teachable. That's what a good friend of mine in Cork told me. He said remain teachable, and that's what I do. That's what I try to do. Sometimes I go off on my own tangents. When I do, I get pain back in my life and I have to turn back to God again. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and Monday we'll be back again to internet strategies. Have a great day. Take care.